Welcome back, everybody. I'm Todd.
And I'm Jill.
And today we're going to talk about
Narcissism.
Narcissism.
Our favorite topic.
That's right. So Jill's had a lot of clients that come to her for this particular problem. And so why are we talking about narcissism today, Jill?
Well, I get a lot of clients my coaching clients that ask me, Jill, can you help me identify narcissistic patterns and to help me figure out how to break away from a narcissistic relationship? And, I think that we're living in times where we're going through kind of an enlightenment era. I mean, as we know, the world is kind of in turmoil right now. And we know that we as human beings, we've had this human experience and we've kind of taken it so far. And no matter what we do, now everything's like, we're not happy with what we have. And so our politics, economy, religion, a lot of these things are really breaking down, and we're trying to figure out how to rebuild a new world. And I'm sure that's not new to you guys, that you're understanding that as souls, we're trying to figure out, how to create a life that's more soulful, that has more meaning, right? So I get a lot of clients because there's a lot of souls that are waking up right now. And because of the things that are happening on the planet, anything that's not aligned, aligned with truth is going to crumble. It's kind of like that building a house on sand theory, right?
Okay.
If you build a house on the sand, it's not going to withstand the storm, right?
Right.
And so relationships that are not built on truth, or relationships that don't have connection, or relationships with partners that don't know or have their own self-worth, or maybe they're not on the soulful journey, right? They don't really know their truth yet. Those types of relationships are really being tested right now, and it's creating kind of this reactionary explosion in relationships where souls and their energies are not getting along. Because everything's kind of breaking down. And what happens is generally one partner will awaken before the other partner. And here you've got your partners, and maybe they were in sync at one point and connected. And then after a few years of marriage or a few years of being in a relationship, you'll have one partner start to work on themselves and kind of raise the bar and demand higher standards. They want more meaning and deeper connection out of the relationship. And then you might have a partner that's not, doing what I call the soul work. And so what happens is we want to get an equal reflection of who we are when we're in a relationship. If I'm a beautiful soul, I want a partner that can mirror that back to me and be in a loving relationship, one that has mutual respect, right? And is reciprocal love. But if I'm with someone that's not doing their work and doesn't know their truth, then what's going to happen is they're going to reflect back disrespect, reflect back disconnection. They're reflecting back the illusions of the human experience, of what the human experience has conditioned us to think love is.
So
right?
How does that tie into narcissism?
Well, I get this question all the time where people ask me, is my partner a narcissist, right?
Is it the reflection that's the issue? Or...
Well, what the issue is that the soul wants to grow, and the soul needs a safe environment to grow in, a safe and loving environment to be open, right? To be open and to be able to express yourself, be able to talk about your desires, be able to talk about your feelings, no matter what that is, to be able to express your truth, to be able to be your true self, right? And if you're with a partner that is insecure or is in lack, they're not going to want you to go, they're not going to feel comfortable with, when a partner going off and being their highest self, because what happens is, and I was in a relationship with my ex, and he basically said, Jill, he says, sometimes it's like the spotlight is always on you, and you shine your light so bright that it shines on all my flaws. So what he was saying is, I raised the bar, because I wanted more out of me and more out of our relationship. And he was feeling like, I don't want to raise that bar. I don't want to change my life. I don't want to live at a higher level. I'm just fine being who I am, and I don't need to grow, and therefore he would do things that were hurtful and secretive and things like that. And that was not, that was hurtful to me, and it wasn't healthy for me to stay in that kind of a toxic environment where someone was always taking actions, that would be hurtful.
Okay.
And then this is when it gets narcissistic, is when he would say, well, you're choosing to feel hurt. Have you guys heard that? You're choosing to feel hurt, right? And that's like the ultimate narcissistic symptom of the problems, of him saying, the problem's not me, the problem's you, right? And so that's why it can be very confusing when you're with a partner that is constantly telling you, you know, you're the problem, you're broken, you know, they're always projecting out, because in a narcissist world, they don't look inside. They don't have that accountability.
Yeah.
You know, they think that it's your role in life to serve them, and or to you know, all they can see is that themselves. They get very much stuck in it's all about me behaviors, and they think that everyone in the whole world exists for them, which can be confusing, right? Because that sometimes seems egotistical.
Right.
So
the difference between being egotistic and narcissist.
Right.
Okay,
Let's talk about that, because that's very confusing, guys.
Right. So, I mean, I did some research, and there's some that me and Jill kind of disagreed on a little bit. Whereas narcissism is, what they said is it's a disorder, but she doesn't like that term.
So, you know, Todd was asking me about what the symptoms of a narcissist are, because I was in a narcissistic relationship for 22 years. And, you know, when I exited that relationship and I got out of that toxic environment, you know, I believed that I was the problem, because he had convinced me that I was broken, that I was irrational, that I was reactive. And, you know, it's funny that after I got into other relationships with, like, my former boyfriend and Todd, you know, what's your experience of me been like?
It has not been that, for sure.
Would you say that I'm irrational?
No, not at all.
Would you say that I'm reactionary?
No.
Overly emotional?
No.
Do I play the victim?
No.
So this is my point, guys, is when, you know, if you're in a relationship and for 10, 20 years, you're hearing, it's all you, blame, 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 you're broken, you're insecure, you're the reason why, you know, and then you start believing that bullshit. You start believing that you're actually the broken one. Yeah. And so to unravel, you know, peel back all of those lies, right? To unravel all of that and get down to the truth. It takes years. It takes years to deprogram all of the bullshit beliefs that are hurtful that you heard from your partner all those years. They don't just disappear, guys. They're down there in the subconscious. You've been believing them for 20 years. So it takes a lot of conscious effort to really look at each one of those beliefs and make sure that you're challenging that belief to make sure that you have evidence in your life that it's not true, right? Just like, you know, my ex's experience of me is very different than what your experience of me has been. Granted, I've done a lot of personal development and growth, right? Maybe my younger self or my older self would have been more emotional. But I struggle with saying narcissistic personality disorder. You guys, I hate
the word disorder? Is that what bothers you?
Disorder. It's like it's an excuse for someone to label you for the rest of your life. Oh, you have a disorder, right? Right. And, you know, I sat in counseling, marriage counseling, where my ex has his, you know, he had convinced the marriage counselor that I had a disorder. And I'm like, oh, really? When did I get diagnosed with a disorder? Because I'm not aware that I've been diagnosed with a disorder, right? So I don't like the word disorder, because it's basically saying that you're not fixable. And that's why I disagree when people say it's a personality disorder, because I believe that all souls, when they go through an awakening process and they begin the higher calling, which is the soulful journey, to learn their worth inside and learn their truth, I believe that all of that is fixable. And I believe that all of us initially in the human experience, which is kind of the lower journey that we start out in, right? Start out with pain and illusion and disconnection and reaction. We kind of have to go through that before we rise up to the soulful journey, which is on a higher level. Okay. And so I don't like using the word disorder, because I don't want to ever label someone for the rest of their life that they have an identity that they have to now figure out how to peel that identity off of themselves, because we all have the power inside to do the work and
to fix ourselves.
Exactly.
Okay. So the research that I came up with, again, this was new to me, is like they said that what a narcissist isn't Okay, so a lot of it was like someone who, again, I've had this when, you know, my past dating, right, where someone, you check them on Facebook or whatever, and they have like a ton of selfies, right? You're thinking, oh, they're a narcissist, or they just dominate the conversation, right? We're like, oh, they just love talking about themselves.
It's all about them.
It's all about that's me. Just really kind of an ego, right? That's not really someone who is a narcissist, correct?
Well, and that goes back to me saying that as part of the human journey, we don't automatically remember our truth. We don't automatically remember that we're perfect spiritual beings. That takes work to get to that point of peeling back the layers of the lies of what the human experience conditions us to believe. And so, you know, you could look at anybody and say at some point in your life, you probably had selfish tendencies, right? And so we get this word selfish confused with being egotistical versus narcissistic. And so, you know, and people would say to me, oh, well, Jill, if you were married to a narcissist, then you were probably a narcissist yourself, or you had narcissistic tendencies, which really rephrasing that says neither one of me and my partner knew our worth at that time. We were young spirits. We hadn't done a lot of spiritual work up to that point. And we were looking outside, blaming each other, playing victim, and not being accountable for ourselves, right? To find our own self-worth. Okay. So with healing, and what, you know, I remember when I started my healing journey, I had part of my ex's family say to me, oh, you're being so selfish, Jill, because you're spending all this time healing, you know, taking workshops or going back to school or whatever. And what they didn't understand, that I understand because I was in a toxic environment that I had to break away from, is that in order to heal, you do need to be a little bit selfish, guys. That kind of is like, we have to love ourselves. We really can't love somebody fully, soulfully, right? We can't love somebody unless we do that inner work first, because if I don't do this, then I don't have a lot to give, right? I'm going to be empty. I'm going to get empty faster if I can't fulfill myself up so full of love, right? So that's what I want to say, is that just be careful when you're labeling others as narcissistic, because we all have the potential to answer the higher call and to do our spiritual work and to, you know, go on the soulful journey to discover our truth, right? And to literally change our character. So everyone has the ability to change their character, but it's a lot of work, and it takes years sometimes of therapy to do, or years on the soulful journey to become your highest self.
Okay. So let's talk about what it is. Okay. So projection and blame, no accountability.
Yeah. So, you know, I remember when I was separated for 2.5 years before I actually got divorced. We had kind of a family business we were fighting over that caused me to stay in this toxic environment, because, you know, the business was feeding me and it was feeding him. It was supporting our family and supported 100 employees. And so it was just, we were both in fear of letting it go. And so I was in this really volatile, toxic environment where, you know, and you know, we were separated, but we were still working together. And I didn't know until I actually until I actually moved to my new house, okay? And till we were in different environments where I had a safe space where I could actually do the work and heal. I needed time, and I needed peace to listen to my soul. And I needed help. I needed people to surround myself with, really loving, positive people that could help me, you know, clear the illusions. Because the way that I was, all the bullshit beliefs that my ex had programmed into my mind by telling me, you're irrational, you know, it's, you know, I can't love you, right? I can't make you happy. I don't want to give to you. Or, and I was like, I never asked you to make me happy. But these are the things that I heard from my ex that he was projecting. It took me, and I remember one time when he said to me, this was after there had been multiple betrayal. I'll just say betrayal. We won't go there. And then there was, you know, another event that happened, and I thought, I can't believe this. It's been, you know, a year since the last event, and here's another event, and he got caught, and my daughters had to tell me, had to go to him and say, hey, Dad, you need to tell Mom, or we're going to tell her what's going on with Mom's friend. And so I'm like, and then he says to me, Jill, this is not about you. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not about me? Like, do you not realize that your actions are ruining my life, and I'm going to have to completely rebuild my life now, and I have to go through this horrible divorce, and one of us is going to have to let go of the business, and who's going to be brave enough to let go of the business, right? And obviously I didn't get the business in the end, right? So it had a huge effect on my life. But what was interesting is that he was saying to me, this is not about you. And I'm like, and I didn't understand that until many years later of having a boyfriend that was a private investigator that worked with women that had these narcissistic husbands, and he would have to help them reprogram their mind and help them peel back the illusions so that they could see the truth of what was really happening. And I remember my one boyfriend, Brett, saying to me, you know, Jill, your ex is just a hurt little boy on the inside, and he's really insecure and doesn't know who he is. Like, that's the sad thing about narcissists is, and so when he was saying it's not about you, what I didn't get is that it's true. It really wasn't. All of his decisions were very much him doing what he wanted to do, but he had no empathy for how that would affect the business, how it would affect our family, how it would affect me, who had been his partner and helped him, build everything that we had. He didn't think about any of those things. He just knew he wanted to be free, and he wanted to, sow his wild oats in his midlife crisis, right? But what he was telling me was it really wasn't about me, because I was, dealing with the aftermath, it felt like it was about me.
Well, again, that's the gaslighting part where he did say that it was, your fault, blaming you for this is why I'm doing this is because you, and then that makes you question your
and I think
behavior.
that's the real damage, you guys, is, this was before I had done a lot of self-development, or what I call soul work. Is that I was believing all what I call those bullshit beliefs, that I'm like, oh, well, I am emotional because of the betrayal. But who wouldn't be emotional because of betrayal? That's just a normal reactionary response. It's normal to be hurt when someone betrays you and cheats on you, And so, part of it is recognizing it was normal for me to be hurt. But I was believing I was broken, that I was too emotional, that I was too sensitive, that I was reactive because I couldn't handle all of his secrets, right? So, and believe it or not, it took years for me to realize that I was actually the healthy one. Like, I had put him on a pedestal. I looked at him through rose-colored glasses. I loved him to death. I loved him more than I loved me. And then now here I am, on the ground trying to rebuild while he walks away with it all, and I'm trying to figure out what happened, right? And so all that projection of what I didn't realize of what Brett had told me is, he's like, Jill, your ex was really talking about himself. He was really, when he said, I can't make you happy, what he was really saying is he doesn't know how to make himself happy.
Good. All right.
Or I can't fix you. You're broken. What he's really saying is, I know, his subconscious is saying, I know I'm broken and I don't know how to fix me. So that's what projection is all about.
Now, I'm sure that a lot of people can empathize with you because they're going through probably a lot of the same things that you went through as well. So let's go to how to break away from a narcissist. We have a few steps here to talk to them about. So first one is you can't heal your partner.
Right. And so that was the big thing for me, is I kept thinking, my ex might be down here and I might be up here and be loving and wanting to bring love to the situation, but he couldn't let it in. He didn't want my love, right? And I'm thinking, I'll just be the shining light and I'm not going to leave him. I'm not leaving him behind. I'm just going to continue loving him and being that light and being a beacon of light, and I'll be the one that's brave enough to be strong and and show him the way, right? But, I have no control over his soulful journey. I have no control over when he awakens, when he chooses to answer the call.
You were there waiting for him and he wasn't coming.
Yeah, and I'm not the higher power. Yeah. And so I can't interfere with his healing process. he's going to awaken when he decides to awaken. Like, it's none of my business, to tell you the truth. It's absolutely none of my business. It doesn't do any good for me to be judgmental about it. The bottom line is recognizing that, you know, the only person that I can take care of is me.
Right.
The only person that I can heal is me. I can't heal him. I can't make him. I can't force him. I can't manipulate him. You know, like, and you know, that's another thing. Narcissists are very manipulative.
Well, the fact that you went and did that, and then he was like, "Hey, you're leaving me behind," because that's what a narcissist does. Is that he's like, "Well, I can't. Where are you going? You need to pop up my ego, right?"
Yeah, and you know, and in the middle of it, I didn't understand what happened. It took years later to gain that higher perspective, right. You know, but there were times when I thought, I'm going back to college. I'm going to go to these workshops. I'm going to work on myself because all I could do is heal me.
Yeah.
And then he's saying things like, well, I felt like you were leaving me behind. And so that was like an excuse for him to say, well, that's why I went off and acted free and did my stuff, and why I needed to go find myself.
There was comfort.
Right. Why I was lost because I quit feeding his energy and his ego, and the second all that energy that was lifting him up on that pedestal and those rose-colored glasses, and I started putting on that love on myself, I'm redirecting all that onto myself, you know, then he felt that emptiness.
Well,
and he's like, oh my gosh, she's moving on without me. Then now he feels lost, and he had to go off and have a journey to find himself.
A narcissist needs constant praise and admiration all the time, and having that ego stroke.
So,
right?
And that's the thing about narcissists is they'll never take accountability and look inside. They're always going to be like, oh, well, you've gained weight, or oh, you're too emotional, or I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe expressing myself. It's all about the other person. It's never about themselves. Yeah.
That's right. All right. Number 2, it's not you. You are not the problem. Yeah. You are not broken.
So first realizing you can't heal yourself, heal him. You can only heal yourself. You can't heal, I want to say him. You can't heal your partner. You can only heal yourself. And yes, the second thing is you realizing you are not broken, because part of the soulful journey is to have that reconnection with your soul and remember that you're a perfect spiritual being. You might be an imperfect human being, but you're also a perfect spiritual being. And having that remembrance that we were born perfect. There is nothing wrong with a little baby that's pure, innocent, naked truth. You know, we came into the world perfect. That's who we still are on the inside. There's that inner child somewhere on the inside. And just remember that you are loved and that you are perfect just the way you are. And I remember going to a workshop down in Sedona, and there was this little channeling event, and this lady had kind of written, she had received messages for me through this test of learning how to channel, and she said, you know, you are perfect just the way you are. And I was just made me cry, brought me to tears, because I'm like, no, I'm not. You know? And I remember, and I said, the other thing said, you can eat a hamburger whenever you want one. And I'm like, how did they know that? Because every time I would go through the drive-through with my kids, my whole family and everyone in the back seat would have all these burgers and fries and drinks, and I'd say, no, I'm good, because I was afraid I was, you know, too fat or whatever. Like, so you do need to remember that you are perfect just the way you are.
Okay. Number 3, time to awaken and choose you.
Yes. And so again, this whole combustion in your relationship of why these energies are not meshing is because one person has had an awakening and the other one hasn't. And so if this is happening to you and you're in a partnership where it's not an equal reflection, it's off kilter, it's out of alignment, it feels like you're getting a reflection of dirt and lies and hurt, right? If you're getting that kind of a reflection, then that is, pain says, pay attention inside now. Pain is not your home. Love is your home. It's time for you to choose you, because your cells are like little, you know, fishies swimming in an environment of mud, you know, toxicity, that hurt, pain. And we have to get these lies and these hurtful energies and emotions out so that we can be healthy. And you know, I remember when I was going through trying to break away from the toxic environment, and I was in it for 2.5 years, and like my hair was thin, I wasn't eating, I was malnourished, I had issues with hormones, and you know, it just, literally my body was screaming out saying, you're in a toxic environment, something's got to change. So you are going through an awakening if you are experiencing a problem in your relationship, and that is spirit saying, choose love, choose you.
Okay, so you told me a little bit before this, like they need to do some committing to choosing themselves, right? Like making that decision, like you're not going to do this anymore. Like,
yeah. So I think sometimes the hardest thing is narcissists will often try to change your mind. And it's because narcissists are very manipulative. They look at people like they're just a tool to be used. Okay, so
they're sweet talkers.
They'll beat you down with their words and they'll tell you how terrible you are, and then they'll give you a little bite of something sweet to get you back, to get you to come back into the sick pattern. Okay, so they want you around so they can continue to use and abuse you because you provide energy for them.
Right.
Because they don't know their self-worth, because they don't have any gas or love or whatever to give. So they need to use and abuse everyone in their environment. And so that's often a symptom too, is you'll see narcissists try to keep you in isolation away from friends or people that are healthy. They don't want you to get healthy. They want you to be right there for them to use.
Because you're serving them.
Right. So one of the things that you have to do is when you make that decision, and you might be like, yeah, I get that I'm worth getting out of this toxic environment. I get that I'm worth a better relationship, but you literally have to put up boundaries and get yourself out of the toxic environment. You've got to put up, and those boundaries might be something like, just refusing to be present whenever there's toxicity. So if you're staying in the same, residence, mm-hmm. and the words start, or the hurtful words, or the blaming, or whatever that pattern is that your partner is putting that, negative venom spewing it out onto you, saying it's all you. At that point, you have to refuse to hold that pain. You have to say, this is unhealthy. I'm not going to take part of this. I'm going to leave now. And literally, if you're, walking down the street and it starts, you get up and you leave. It's just like dealing with a child that's misbehaving. You don't reward the behavior. So right. You need to just, okay, I can see that this is toxic. I'm going to keep my cool and I'm going to leave. And that's, if you do that over and over again, the narcissist will start to understand that you've changed the pattern. You're putting up boundaries, that you will not put up with disrespect. And that's when they'll actually freak out. They'll freak out that they can't control you and manipulate you anymore. It's quite interesting to see how that plays out. And often what happens is they just discard you. Once you stand up for yourself and your self-worth, they'll just be like, oh, well, that's a piece of trash. I've used it and I can't use it anymore, so I'm going to throw it to the side. Yeah. Like 20 years, no value, just throw it to the side. So, boundaries, leaving if you have to.
Well, being consistent with those boundaries, right?
Right. Yeah. Because realize that you're trying to establish a new pattern of behavior, and you've got 20 years of broken bullshit beliefs driving you. It's going to take several months of doing healthy things and healthy beliefs, saying, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of having a peaceful relationship. I'm worthy of being in a healthy environment. You're going to have to reprogram that stuff. Right?
That's right. By
being consistent. And that's why I say, ultimately, you have to get in a safe environment where you can heal. And that, if there's one thing that you take away from today, if you know someone that is in a narcissistic relationship, or someone that is struggling to love themselves because they're constantly being demeaning behavior or put down, narcissists do that just like egotistical, because they want to lift themselves up. That's why there's such confusion about being egotistical and being narcissistic. But the difference really between those two is that a narcissist literally is not connected with their own feelings. They literally lack empathy, and they can't feel emotion. And therefore they can't see how their behavior is actually hurting or care if it hurts someone else. And that's how you really tell the difference between, being selfish or egotistical, versus actually being a narcissist.
So creating a self environment is obviously important, but also
a safe environment.
Getting with people who can help you, right? Who can be a support source.
Right. So yes, so it might mean, a lot of times I tell my clients, let's just come up with a 3-month plan. Like, let's just baby step into this, right? Like, you might not have the answers of how to break away from this partnership, right? It might take you a year, but every single one of you has someone healthy and loving in your life that can help keep you, lift you up, right? That can remind you that you are beautiful, that you deserve to be loved, that you deserve to be in a peaceful, loving environment. And so if you have family or if you have friends, and be really open to letting soul or spirit come in and help you, put the intention out that you need to create a 3-month plan, and then meditate and listen and ask, spirit, who can help me? Who can help me find a 3-month planned safe environment? Mm-hmm. Who do I need to be around in order to be strong to get through this? Do I need to hire a life coach? Do I need to hire someone that can help me be strong enough until I make these critical decisions? Because for a while, those 3 months before you make, I never encourage anybody to make critical life choices without having a little bit of time to do some healing first to get strong.
Right, because it's about surrounding yourself with people who are going to support and your self-worth, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, is to build that up, right?
Right.
That they're people who are in those situations, their self-worth is suffering, but then the boundaries that you make also starts to allow you to get that self-worth back. And people in your life who are, like a coach or a friend, whatever, is helping them amplify their self-worth a little bit to kind of get that up to where you start feeling better about yourself.
Yeah, and it's people that have been on this journey, the soulful journey. It's people that have done their work. It's people that know their worth. It's people that live their truth. It's people that don't hide secrets. It's people that are their authentic self, that are not trying to put up a front out there and act like they're perfect. I mean, that is a symptom of being a narcissist, is that they try to convince everybody that they're the one person in the world that's actually perfect, right? And I don't want to say that, like, we are all spiritually perfect, but we're also imperfect human beings. We all have flaws. So, they're just hiding their flaws, right? They just don't want you to know. They think they're able to fool you, right? Yeah. So when you are, you want to be around people that are holding that energy. I call that the earth element of embodiment, that embody love. Because that is the power of attraction. It's those people that you're like, I want to spend more time with them. I want to be around that person more. I want to become more like that person, right? So who is it that you admire? Who is it that you want to become like, right? And you would be amazed at how willing they are to help you, because we need each other, guys. We need students and we need mentors. Mentors need students and students need mentors, okay? Whether you've been through the journey or you're just starting the journey, we need to be here to help each other and to connect and to help each other heal, right? And to really heal our bodies, heal our minds, heal our hearts, or heal our energy, heal our souls. And it takes some time to do that. So definitely surrounding yourself with supportive soulmates that can always remind you of your beauty and truth is very helpful.
Awesome. All right. Any final thoughts, or are we good?
I know that this is happening a lot in marriages out there or long-term partnerships, and it is very sad. But realize that there's a reason why it's happening, and that's because you're going through the awakening. And you can't get to your best self or your highest self or your best life without going through this first. This is all part of that journey of learning how to transform that pain into passion, how to transform those fears into love, how to gain that strength through the process of the journey. So, take judgment out because we're all on the journey. Give us all a break. I have an old self that wasn't perfect. I'm maybe a more refined, polished version of myself nowadays. But, I probably was difficult as well in my marriage, right? Because I wasn't awakened. So just realize that, it's going to take some time. This has to happen. The more you resist, the more it will persist. It's your time. Spirit is calling you to the higher calling. Are you going to answer the call? Are you going to begin the soulful journey, right? And so if you need help, or if this has been helpful for you, if you've been able to get some good information out of this that you can apply in your life, or if you know someone that's struggling with potentially being in a narcissistic relationship, or someone that needs help with healing and understanding their self-worth, to get out of a toxic environment, that's why we did the channel, guys. That's what my give back is for the beautiful blessings that I received after having gone through this journey myself.
Great.
So please, guys, share it, and don't forget to subscribe. We're honored to be your soulmates and to guide you on your soulful journey, and we hope that you guys will join us on the next one.
All right. See you later.